Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. I have been meaning to make this video for a very long time. I asked a few questions from you guys on Instagram a few weeks ago about roti, and just because I think that is one question that I get asked all the time. I shared a roti video when I started the channel many years ago, but it is not a detailed video. It is not, it doesn't have those few tips. So I thought I'm going to do this detailed video of how to make really lovely chapatis. Now they can be called chapati, they can be called roti, they can be called rotli or rotla. And I think they all are names of the same thing, which is a flatbread made with wholemeal flour or atta. Because atta is not exactly wholemeal flour, atta is milled in slightly different way. So the first thing is that when you are making chapati, you really need to get atta, and the wholemeal flour is milled differently. I went to an atta mill many years ago in the UK, and they showed me how it was differently milled to normal wholemeal flour, and that makes the basis, the big difference between a roti and any other flatbread is the atta. So I would suggest, if you are planning to make rotis or chapatis, then buy some atta, and you can easily find it in every supermarket in the UK, so you don't have any excuse. You can find them in any supermarkets, whether it's Tesco, Sainsbury's, Waitrose, Aldi, everyone, absolutely everyone stocks them. So get yourself some atta is the first step. Now that we've covered the flour, we can move on to the next step. Now, obviously chapati is made all over India, so you can imagine the number of ways it is made by different people, and also in the same area there could be every family making it differently, their own little method. So I'm just sharing what I've grown up with and what always works for me. So once we've got the flour in our bowl, I always use this. Now this is called a parat in Hindi, and I've had this parat for 20 years. It's also got a little crack on here, but I still use it, and I just love, because you use a parat to make dough in India, and you can get all sort of sizes. You can get this big as well, for, like, weddings and stuff. So then you have to make that much quantity. Moving on to the next step. Now some people add some salt to this. Now I have not seen that happen in my home at all, and I don't do that. The reason being, we don't add any salt. Most people don't add salt to the chapati dough, is that you eat this with a curry or a chutney, or some butter or some ghee or some sabji. So it's always eaten with something, and that thing has already got lots of salt, so there's no need for adding extra salt into your dough. Now that we've got the salt covered, moving on, oil or ghee. Now some people add, at this stage, will add salt and a little bit of ghee or some oil to this. I've seen my mom's neighbor do it growing up. She always adds a drop of oil or a teaspoon of oil. Now we don't, because again the same thing goes, that we're going to eat it with lots of lovely things. Also, I would prefer to put ghee on top of it rather than in the dough. And whether you add it or not, some say that you could get softer rotis, but my rotis have always been really soft. My mom's rotis have always been soft, so I think I just don't see any need, and it's always worked for years, so why add the oil and ghee now? So all I need to make chapati is basically flour and water. And it's as simple as that. Flour and water, no other thing needed. You will see recipes adding all sorts of things, some cumin, some spices, but that's not the basic chapati. So we've got the flour. I'm going to use some tap water. Now that's another question that gets asked, whether it's cold water, warm water. I just use normal tap water, so it's neither too cold, neither warm. It's just kind of room temperature-ish, and that always works. Obviously, when I'm making chapati, I don't weigh the dough. I just see, okay, this is going to be enough for 4 people, and that's how, because I've made it for so long. But if you are a new to, if you're making it for the first time, and if you're new to chapati making, then I'm using 300 grams, which will serve 4 people easily. And with that, I'm going to take 300 ml of water. But the key when making chapati is, please do not add all the water at the same time. Add little at a time, just little at a time, and then add a little, mix a little, add a little, and then you just stop adding water once you've got the right consistency of the dough, and always make it by hand. You really don't need a mixer for this kind of stuff. So here is the atta, chapati atta, and here is just some plain water. So now you know it's just plain flour and just plain water, and as I said, just add little at a time, bring it together. I'm trying to show you the whole process so there's no missing link and you'll think, how did the dough come together? But like I said, it doesn't need any big mixers or kind of stand mixer or hand mixer. It just needs your hands to bring this dough together. Just try and add little at a time. It only takes a few minutes, I promise. It's as simple as it looks. And just a little at a time, and once the dough comes together, there is no dry flour, that's when you stop adding any water. Basically, once you make the dough, your bowl should be kind of clean, really, because all the flour is now in the dough and the plate is all clean. And once you get to this stage, that's when just knead it for a few seconds, not even minutes, just to smoothen it out slightly. Just keep folding it in and smoothing it out. Now that the dough is ready, the key is, the next point to remember when making chapati is that you cover it up. And if you want, you can make roti straight away, but your rotis will be crispy, they'll be hard, they will crack on the sides, so it will not have a smooth edge, the chapati. So it will have like a cracked edge, which is not a good thing. So it's really important to let the dough rest, and when you're doing that, make sure that you cover it up with a plate or whether with a bowl. Make sure that it's covered and let it rest for at least half an hour. Now sometimes I will make chapati straight away, but very few times if I'm really out of time and I've made the dough last minute. But I try and make this beforehand, at least half an hour. If you've got more time, then you can prepare it a couple of hours ahead of time as well. So the dough has rested for half an hour. Now moving on to the next step, the pan to cook it in. So we use a cast iron pan called the tawa, especially for the rotis. So if you don't have one, I often use just like a frying pan. So I would just use like a normal frying pan to make the chapati. Actually, I will make 2 chapatis, one in a tawa and one in a frying pan, to show you guys that it is actually okay to use that. Also, obviously we have a chakla and a belan, and you can get it in wooden, you can get it in marble, or you can get it in glass, very fancy. But you really don't have to use this. You can just make a chapati on the work surface with a rolling pin as well, and I'll show you it's exactly the same. So it's just because we're used to this stuff to make the chapati, and that's why we use it all the time. Also, we have a little box, everyone has a little box in their kitchen, with some just plain flour, because plain atta, because we're gonna roll the dough into the atta. Now our atta is really soft now. Come have a look closely. How beautifully soft it is. Look at that. Stunning. Absolutely smooth and soft. And now I'm just going to take a portion. Now some people like really thick chapatis. Some make really fine thin chapatis. But I'm happy with this kind of like a lime size. Let's say a lime size portion of the dough. I've got the dough, and I'm just going to roll it into into the flour. It's quite important, otherwise it will stick to your chakla. And I'm going to reduce the heat a little bit because I'm just going to show you. So first you roll it a little bit and then do another round of flour dipping. And now you just don't stop. So obviously once you get used to it, your chapati will roll automatically, but till then you can just move your chapati a little bit at a time, and I like it nice and thin. Now our tawa is nice and hot. Make sure it is clean. Just gonna make sure nice and clean and hot. So it's hot. I've got it on medium heat and I'm just going to put the chapati on. Now we just wait for a few seconds and you will see that a few bubbles will start forming on the dough, on the chapati. So we keep a close eye, and obviously I'm going to start rolling the other one, but you can wait for it. Now can you see the few bubbles? Look, can you see the bubbles coming up? This is the time you turn it over, right? So you turn it over and then you continue cooking this for another few minutes. Just keep an eye on it. Don't turn it over yet. This is the key. So once you can see that this is golden, you gently press on the sides and then try and build up the kind of steam inside. Now this is not going to steam up and become all puffy because it's got a hole in here. Can you see? So it's not going to puff up, which is absolutely fine. It's not going to be not a nice chapati, but that's another thing to be careful of. It's got a little hole, so it won't puff up. Now I'm going to move on to the next one. Just going to do exactly the same with the, and just see if this can avoid any holes and can puff up. Another point to remember is, now you can see, come have a look at how soft the chapati is. So the chapati is super soft, super soft, and I haven't even put anything. The edges are smooth. It's all lovely and soft. Now if you want to keep it soft, you put some butter or some ghee. Now I obviously my family uses butter, but I like to use ghee, but I like to use butter, salted butter, just because that's the preference. And then I'm going to continue cooking and then keep piling up, putting ghee in between. So the bottom will get a little bit of ghee, butter, and the top will get a bit of butter, and it will remain super soft. So I'm just going to show you that you can make the exact same thing with the rolling pin on the surface. So one roll and then dip in the, and there it is. Just press on the sides and just build up the steam, and then don't just press it, just gently try and move it on the sides and then let it cook. You don't have to do anything for a few seconds, and then when you know it might be cooked, you turn it around and there you have a perfectly puffy chapati or roti. Look at that. Keep it buttered or ghee on top of this. So I'm using a normal frying pan. Just make sure it's dry and clean. Just, I'm going to do exactly the same thing. Cook for a few seconds till it bubbles up. If it doesn't puff up completely, that's fine. Just let it puff up as much as it can, because not every chapati is going to puff up completely, which is absolutely fine. They are still all absolutely gorgeously delicious. Our first turn. Now obviously this pan doesn't get as hot as this pan, the other one, because this is cast iron. It's still steaming. But this one is not going to get as hot, but it doesn't matter, it still cooks the chapati beautifully. Right, once it's nice and golden, then you start turning it around I'm just gonna try and get a bit of steam building up. So don't let anyone tell you that you need a cast iron pan only for chapati. Look at how the chapati has beautifully puffed up in a normal frying pan. Look at that, just look at that. Absolutely stunning. So yeah, you don't need a chakla belan really. You can just do it with a rolling pin, and you can just do it in a normal frying pan. It's just how you make your dough, and remember all the tips I've shared with you to get this perfect chapati. And here is my pile of perfectly cooked chapatis. And remember the tip about the flour, the kneading, the resting, the rolling. And then once you've got this beautifully super soft, look at that, super soft, just like soft, then you must cover it up. So in India you would just cover it up in a fabric cloth, like a tea towel, clean tea towel, and you can use a foil, you can use another plate to cover it up. Usually I make them fresh when we are ready to eat, so I would do the dough, keep it ready, and then I'll roll them when we are fresh, ready to eat, 5 or 10 minutes in advance. But yeah, you can make them much in advance, and then reheat them on a tawa or in the microwave. But if you reheat it in the microwave, it's really kind of rubbery soft. If you reheat it in a pan, it becomes crispy on the side where you've put butter or ghee. So hopefully, I really hope that you found my kind of step-by-step roti video helpful. If you have, leave me a comment, give me a thumbs up, and don't forget to subscribe. Is there any other basic thing you want me to share step by step with you? Then please let me know in the comments. I really hope this is going to encourage you to make your own chapatis all the time with all the curry recipes I share. Thanks for watching. Bye.